I'm Jason Klom, and this is Comedy on Vinyl. Ladies and gentlemen, no particular year, no particular album, no particular artist. The reason for that is I have David Ossman speaking with me today of the Firesign Theater. David, thank you so much for speaking with me.
Sorry, I seem to be coming down to something. No, it's great to be here. It really is.
Oh my God, both you and Phil, you'll never telegraph that a bit is coming. This is the thing. I don't expect it. I should have, but I didn't. Holy shit.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, here we are. We're plodding along in the world of LPs. We just have a double LP out. It is truly exciting because the format is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I haven't put a needle on it yet, but I have no doubt that the tracks are as beautiful as they used to be before CDs destroyed our hearing.
My God, how long has this actually been since you've had a vinyl release? This is the first vinyl release in, maybe the 80s, right?
Yeah, it's since I think there was a group of 3 albums that very early Rhino brought out.
Okay.
And one of those, the best known, is the Fighting Clowns album.
Sure, yeah.
And that had a 7-inch, which was supposed to be a promotional for the album.
Oh, so that's a picture disc, right?
Yeah, it was a picture disc. And then
I have one somewhere.
There were 2 more. And then there were 2 more after that that just snuck out under. One of the Shakespeare's Lost Comedy.
Oh, okay.
Was printed that time. It was just 81, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
They were the last of the breed.
Yeah.
And of course, like Stand Up, an independent label with an enthusiast or more than one enthusiast behind it.
Oh, yeah.
Really important.
I mean, this podcast, honestly, this is not me kissing any butt. It wouldn't still be going, probably, and it wouldn't sound this good if it wasn't for Dan Schlissel at Stand Up. So, I'm just happy that it finally came together with, Firesign. I'm just glad that because I know he's been waiting to release something of Firesigns, and I'm just so glad that it happened. As I was telling you before we started, I have mine sitting in the living room. And ladies and gentlemen, I am overly cautious. So in 7 days, I think I can open it just to be safe, that I didn't get any crazy diseases. The last thing I want is to get COVID from a Firesign record, although it would be poetic, weirdly poetic.
In the year of Beat the Reaper, yes, it's certainly something poetic. I don't know whether it'd be poetic.
So since you and I, we're both coughing, by the way.
We'll both clear our throats at that.
Jesus Christ.
Terrible thought.
We have only spoken briefly a few times in person. This is our first time really. So I want to know, since I've interviewed Phil countless times, why don't we start with everything he got wrong? Why don't you? No, but I want to know from your perspective. I want to know a little bit about what it was like getting started in Firesign from the beginning for you, and I also want to know the early records you listened to before you were ever in comedy.
Yeah, well, Phil tells, of course, his great story about sitting on Bergman's face in the newspaper during the Sunset Strip riots. And it is a great story, and it's true, which makes it even better.
Right.
For me, it was out of many years, by this time, 6, almost 7 years of doing radio broadcasting. So Peter came along when I had just dropped out of KPFK and had gone to work for ABC Television in an assistant to the vice president in charge of programming at ABC Television Network. It was a job there was no way I could improve on anything. It was the year of Batman. Wham, bam, whack. And that was the best they had to offer, really. And there was no way, I wasn't an experienced enough writer, and certainly not a screen or television writer, so I could go in and say, oh, let me fix this script up for you. But I could tell a bad script when I read one. Sure. That I knew. And so coming out or off that and going back to KPFK during a fundraiser, and being on the air with Phil Austin, we were a great partnership on the radio, raised a lot of money. Peter came in next door, got a radio program. I became a fan of his. And the Phil Proctor story comes way down the line after we'd done a lot of playing together. Phil in particular, because he was producing, and for me it was like a driveway show. I had to stop and listen. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And so I would end up in the studio hanging out because it was 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, however long it was in the middle of the night. And it was like magic. I have to say, when Proctor did arrive, it was very magical.
Yeah.
The group became a group, did coalesce. Peter called us a group. We had an identity right from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But that didn't mean that we necessarily had any work or a job or or a record contract or anything else. But there was this groupness about it. If you put yourself back in the late '60s, groups were, that was it. Groups were everything,
Mm-hmm.
and we were absolutely the same as a rock quartet.
Mm-hmm.
The company didn't know. Columbia Records had no idea. Just sell records. It doesn't matter. Red beans and reds. Whoever who is go out there and sell records. Dope humor of the '70s. That was the one thing you couldn't do, of course.
Sure.
At least not so they could tell you were doing it.
Yeah.
We did famous commercials for a real product, instant breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
Take home carnation. And our slogan was remember THC, take home carnation. And we had a whole little campaign built on that. Nobody knew until somebody fell off a chair someplace and said, wait a minute, you realize what these guys are doing. So there was, in a sense, there was a lot of dope humor because it was a signal.
Yeah.
It was a signal between friends. It was an oral handshake, if you like.
Yeah.
And so it's remarkable to me. The other thing about this, about the album, is that who would have thought that you'd do a commercial for an album that wasn't going to be released for 50 years? Ponder that one. And what did I listen to? I listened to a lot of radio during the classic era of radio.
Mm-hmm.
I think when albums came out, albums reproduced work that you heard in other places.
Sure.
So I remember when that first Lord Buckley album came out,
Mm-hmm.
Elektra, I think it was, right? And that was, that was like, oh, I never heard any. I mean, I've heard bits and pieces, but I never heard an LP of the work before. And
Yeah.
that was a game changer, I think. I've done a couple of his things, not being him, but because they're so good. The Raven,
Uh-huh.
the Bug Boy, and it just gorgeous word smithing on his part.
Yeah.
And I never saw him in person, but I guess that's who he always was Lord Buckley. So that was and the early Nichols and May albums, particularly that Improvisation to Music album, which how could you not learn something from listening? As an actor, just as an actor. Very valuable from two people who turned out to be incredible directors, actors, and who knew where they would go. And there's the one, isn't that the album that has the one where they fall apart laughing finally?
I think so. Yeah. If I'm not mistaken. They only had a few albums. But...
That's another that moment could be kept and done specifically for vinyl. Not for radio, and it wasn't a capture from some other medium. It was done for vinyl. They were sitting in the studio across from each other, and so that was really inspiring as albums go. And what else? Stan Freberg, of course. I listened to him from the singles era, from the '50s when I was in high school, and ultimately, his long form. What is he? In the United States of America?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And when I met him to do an interview with him, he was, first of all, just tell me you owe everything to me. And I said, Stan, we owe everything to you. And in a way, he was the uh, last radio artist, last golden age radio artist. He picked up from Jack Benny, and radio was gone right out of his hands. But he was doing real radio, real well, with really good people at that moment. And and his work in the studio, his talent in the studio, the production. I think you can probably, it's pretty close to the production of side one of Electrician.
Right.
Because no one, Jimmy Garcia and anybody else associated with that album production, what else did they have to listen to? You know, let's bring in the band and have them go da 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 da. Thank you, bridge. You know, what else? And as I say, I think the first LP that I really could laugh my way all the way through was Noel and Gertie, the Noel Coward album that kept parts of both songs, but also scripts from Coward's comedies, Private Lives, with this very crisp, intense dialogue. Just wonderful, wonderfully funny stuff. I've always been a fond of the British kind of music hall sense.
Sure.
I don't, you know, that didn't invest us like that did Paul McCartney, who came right out of that. But I think our equivalent of that was the Medicine Show. Was the traveling medicine show, which is one of our identities, one of our character identities, was being those guys traveling the plains with our lonely buffalo and entertaining people.
Were you a performer as a kid? Were you, because it sounds like just the way you describe getting in Firesign is just very like, oh, I was there, but I don't get a sense of like, were you in theater as a kid? Were you interested in comedy, or was it a passing interest, or were you actively writing stuff?
As a kid, I was a writer. I mean, if we go back to let's say, you know, high school, I was one of the writers. I was editor of the school newspaper, which was a daily. I was in my senior year of thank you, dear. My senior year of high school, I edited the newspaper. So I wasn't in the senior play. I was in the play before that. That was the first time I did any real stage acting. I was drawn to it. I had gone to, by the time I was a senior in high school, I'd seen a lot of theater, mostly musicals, but also a lot of Shakespeare, everything that was in town that I could see. And, you know, I had a season ticket to the Civic Light Opera or whatever it was. I saw everything, really devoured theater. So I had a lot of that in my mind. And that shows of basically of the 40s and Shakespeare, you know. So did I want to become an actor? When I went to college, then I tried out for theater, and I got on stage for 2 years at Pomona. I did half a dozen shows with Richard Chamberlain, who was in the year ahead of me at Pomona. Wow. And others. Anthony Zerbe was also there during that time, who was a character actor. And Robert Town, who wrote Chinatown, behind that whole story. He also was at Pomona then. It was a very interesting time. And after they all graduated, I didn't want to be there anymore because it was like, you know, what? Science classes and economics too. And no. So I went to New York, to Columbia, to the School of Drama, which really didn't exist, at Columbia University, and spent 2 years there, and really didn't know where to go after that. Maybe tried out for a couple of summer theaters. No. You know, had a job at Newsweek as an editorial assistant, makeup assistant. No. And the phone rang, and it was, would you like a summer vacation? We have a summer vacation job as a radio announcer. Are you interested in trying out? So I have to say, man, the door opened just like that. Right place, right time, 1959, Manhattan, 30 East 39th Street. And I don't know what kind of a listenership we had, but it was, you know, one of the only FM stations in New York. And if you were into FM, you know, you had it on. I'd say 100,000, couple of 100,000 listeners here and there. Very eclectic programming. Once it was given to the Pacifica, oh shush! I have a cat here. I have such a noisy cat. I was there when it was a commercial station, and then after about 9 months, it was given to the Pacifica Foundation, which owned KPFA and KPFK in California. And we changed, I would say, not to be more radical like the Berkeley station was, but to be closer to New York. So WNYC wasn't the only thing. So we had a theater critic, we had movie critics, we had all the regular stuff. I mean, I remember the guy coming in after the show and typing his thing. It was like Citizen Kane, and we had commentators who were, very interesting. I mean, Alan Watts would come in. Alan Watts, the great philosopher, would come in with his thin cigar. He would sit down at the table, talk incredibly well, so your eyes would be like this. And then he'd get up and walk out after his 28 minutes of broadcasting. It was just amazing people that came in and out. That was New York.
What station was this?
WBAI.
It was Okay, I was going to say that's exactly what it sounded like. Okay,
but it was the first articulation of that station, which went through many changes over the years, and we're still friendly to there. I think in a week we're doing a broadcast on WBAI.
Oh, wonderful.
And Phil Proctor is going to see. I think he's going on Friday to do a weekend pitch for KPFK. So here, after all of these years, we're still raising money for non-commercial radio, which is a good thing.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Did you? Oh, I was going to ask, did you go by a different name? But I guess at that station you could have just gone by David Ossman.
Yeah, I was Dave for a long time. The only person who calls me Dave anymore is Phil Proctor.
Fair
I
enough.
mean, it's like your mom or your brother. He's like my brother calls me Dave.
It's so weird. I've been doing all these different. Obviously, I do interviews, but also research of different comedians. WBAI is this cross street of so many people I'm fascinated with. And what's interesting is it's still a tough nut to crack because I still can't get a hold of any of the recordings of any of the stuff I really want to hear. Like specifically now, if there are recordings of your early days, I would love to hear those. But it's the kind of thing, it's, again, tough nut to crack because it's
yes,
a lot of stuff.
Well, historically, because the stations were so poor, they recycled their tape.
Makes sense.
Now, this isn't to say that the greatest, biggest network stations recycled their tape. I mean, it wasn't.
Sure.
So, but it was an economic decision, and I that had to end because it was important to keep certain programs after a while. And when I was in LA by that time, I established the archive that now really exists. There really is a big archive for all of the remaining Pacifica programs.
That's amazing.
But I took mine home. To be perfectly honest, I felt
Smart.
I was any program that I produced, and the major one I did was called The Sullen Art, which was interviews with then young upcoming poets in the New York, particularly in the Lower East Side New York scene, Ginsberg and that basic company of writers. Amiri Baraka, Paul Blackburn, a whole group of about 50. Those were my interviews, and I kept them and saved them and made a book out of them, which was one of the very earliest books to come out of any Pacifica programming.
Okay, so after you're in radio, that becomes your outlet. Sounds like that's your creative outlet, but it also has, is there any comedy to it, or did you need comedy? Did you think yet?
Well, I think by way of working at WBAI, there was no real comedy as such at that time. What there was folk music, right? Sure. And I didn't produce. When I got to Los Angeles, I produced a folk music called Hal's Hoot, weekly hoot show where people would come in and play their various songs. The Chambers brothers made their first appearance on that show. Wow. Okay. That's the only distinguishing mark I can make for it. But no, I was basically a young poet.
Hmm.
And my interest when in, let's say, around the age of 25, when I learned how to produce for radio, basically nobody knew anything. You had to learn it all from the BBC.
Hmm.
There was no model for what we pioneers had to learn how to do, which is not just to be broadcasters, but to be producers, editors, announcers, narrators, and everything else there for a while. So um, the 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 luck of being in New York gave me the opportunity to produce the first documentary that I ever did. I'm 24 now. This is my first radio documentary, and it's about poetry, not about comedians, not not anywhere near there. Uh, when I when I moved back to Los Angeles then and became drama and literature director, um, let's look at the comedy scene. By that time, it was the rise of the stand-up,
Hmm.
and that only went as far as it went with me. As I say, the people who interested me, like Lord Buckley, the people who uh, were surreal and went beyond reading the newspaper. God bless them. It was important that they did that, sit on the
Yeah.
stool and read the newspaper. But that's one style. What I wanted to go toward back to radio theater
Yeah.
and tried to take the station in that direction, being a literature and drama director. Um, I produced, narrated books. I did, a piece about Thoreau that had Charles Ives music under it, and a Hollywood actor, Ross Martin, I think it was,
Okay.
doing the Thoreau narration. Beautiful, heartbreakingly gorgeous Americana
Of course.
kind of thing. It was historical programs. I did some public affairs. I did a show called Brecht in Hollywood, which was a portrait of Bertolt Brecht during his few years in Hollywood, working on Galileo
Hmm.
with Charles Lawton. We a significant time in his life. We did interviews with Elsa Lanchester and others, and it's a wonderful show, which I just adapted into a little 4-person radio play. I mean,
Hmm.
a Zoom play, a stage play, or whatever we're going to ever do again, whenever
Right.
we do anything ever again. So it was literature and drama.
Okay.
When did comedy enter that? Not until comedy became something that people were broadly interested in from a satiric point of view.
Hmm. Okay.
And that began to happen when underground radio began to happen,
Okay.
because otherwise it was basically, it was all top 40. It was all genre. Okay. Breaking genre in radio where it had gone, it was just not there. It didn't happen until suddenly it did, because there was a listenership of kids who said, "Yeah, give me the top 40. I'm happy to hear that. But is there anything else to listen to?" And suddenly there was the Beatles, and suddenly there were cuts that were 7 minutes long, and suddenly there was the Doors, and you had to play. It was 22 minutes long. What were you going to do? You're going to say to your audience, "We're not going to give you what you want."
Right.
No, that was not going to happen. So during the period of time that we did the Dear Friends and Let's Eat shows, from which this album Dope Humor of the 70s is taken, there was pretty much as much freedom of the air for comedy as there ever could possibly have been. And at that time, that's when Harry Shearer got his start with the Credibility Gap.
Hmm.
There were a number of people working on KPFK. I set up a series called Late and Live. I wanted 5 nights a week, 11 o'clock, we're on the air live with something, you know. And some of the shows were just terrific. They were just out from outer space. I'm trying to remember. Oh, he just passed away a few years ago, and I try to think of his name. With a funny, kind of a fat guy, kind of a round, fat guy, Marshall Efron.
Okay. Okay.
Marshall Efron.
Hmm.
He did a show where he would just identify the traffic coming down Ventura Boulevard. That is a dark blue 1967 Dodge van. And he'd do it car after car and never miss. That was the parking lot where they built a tower of television sets and blew them up. I mean, yeah, late and live. You
Holy
know, and
cow.
I do documentaries. By that time, Mr. Skillful is doing documentaries live.
Mhm.
Reel A, reel B, reel C, live narration, go A, go B, which was good because when I got to NPR in
Mhm.
1981, that's exactly the way we produced.
Wow.
If you have union engineers and you're producing, you have everything arranged on separate 10-inch reels, track by track by track, usually an A roll, B roll, sometimes a C roll, whatever it was, and you call it and they do it, you know.
Oh,
And roll
jeez.
A, we're going to go to B in 2, 3, 1, go. You know, it was something. It was
Wow.
intense production. Yeah. Loved it.
Yeah.
I have to say, loved it. You know, I mean, I like digital editing, but not doing it personally. But I like watching it. I get what the waveforms are, and that's easy for
Sure.
me. But just being physically there, and it's real. You know,
Mhm.
it's like a 12-inch record. It's real. You know, here's the CD of it. Well, it's not real, is it? No. Yeah, I love the CDs they've made to look like records. They're so hopelessly pathetic, like imitating 45, right?
Mhm. Yeah, it's one of those things where, if you're going to go for the nostalgia of the record, just make a record. If that's your goal, just make a damn record. I know it's expensive as hell and there's no profit in it, but you know what? They look nice. I'm desperate to have my own. I know it's going to cost me an ass load of money, but I'm desperate to have my own.
Well, you know, the Barnes and Noble
Hmm.
published an ad. It must have come up on one of my feeds, New York Times or something. Anyway, Barnes and Noble pops up, and it's the weekend LP sale.
Hmm.
20% off of LPs plus, a low price on a record player.
Uh-huh.
I thought, well, this is Barnes and Noble. They're clearing some table to make space for this,
Oh, yeah.
you know,
Oh, yeah.
and people are listening more and more. We have people's ears between Dope Humor and the free just a dollar, whatever you want to pay downloads that are
Oh,
on
yeah.
Bandcamp.
Hmm.
There are about 3.5 hours of short form Firesign humor available almost literally for nothing
It's crazy.
right at the present. And that actually, I wrote, questioned Taylor. I said, what have we got here? He said, about 3.5 hours. And that's all selected from, material that presumably is still alive today.
Hmm.
More alive than a lot of other things are that are 50 years old.
Sure. It's so I'm getting the impression then that at the time, and maybe still, comedy's got to be very specific for you, very hard hitting in some certain way for you to even give a shit. That's what it sounds like, and that's what got you so interested in Peter and everybody else.
Yes, the fact that we were really on the moment with the very first album and everybody was in the same place writing this really, really funny stuff and making each other laugh. That was what
Yeah.
was really important at that time. I think my focus was for the best and most interesting possible production values. And as we moved on, things got richer and richer in terms of their production.
Yeah.
We were all behind that. That certainly it was make radio realer than radio,
Hmm.
And I think, and the other thing is, at the time of doing How Time Flies in 1973, along with Procter and Bergman's TV or Not TV and Austin's Roller Maidens from Outer Space.
Hmm.
This was a moment when the form of the LP record was as potent as any other media form there was. Here, take home this comic play, this adventure story, this flight to the moon on Gossamer Wings. Take it home. Listen to it. Tired of listening to it? Didn't understand a word you heard? Play it again. It was a beautiful form.
Yeah.
And media. It was a medium. And when they took it away from us, it was just like taking marble away from Michelangelo, I'll tell you.
It really felt that bad, huh? Like you really, in your head, you're not making an album. You're making a record physically. This is the thing you want to make. You want to see this round piece of vinyl, and that's how you want it played.
Well, that was the ultimate. Yeah, that was the ultimate form
Yeah.
to not have that. Um, well, first of all, it meant that nobody had access to what you were doing, and
Sure.
then remember that it was cassettes. There were endless cassettes, 8 tracks. It was like the government dissolving in front of your face. There were all of these media. None of them were any good. All
Yeah.
of them were. We'll put out 3 of the. I have a reel to reel of Dear Friends. I
Hmm.
got it at a tag sale in Vermont. Now, how did it get there? Well, I mean, it's just the weirdest stuff. So I think all of the that mix of media, when they went away from the LP toward and heading toward, but not getting to CDs yet. We had to go through this horrible transition point.
Yeah.
I have 2 favorite cassettes. They're this big, cassettes are just this big,
Sure.
that big. One of them is Death of a Salesman with the original Broadway cast
Wow. Okay.
on a cassette.
Wow.
And the other one is Dylan Thomas's Under Milkwood with a complete dramatic cast.
Wow.
I thought, and I found them separately, of course, but when I found each one, it was like, are you kidding? Can you imagine putting this on this tiny little tape? And maybe that's the only thing there'll ever be of that production, So we had to go through that period of time. But you say, yes, I felt that the form of the LP record was viable in every way, as a storytelling form, as an art medium of all kinds. And if I pushed inside Firesign for anything more than anyone else, was probably form.
Okay. Okay. I appreciate that. It is one of the central things about this show. Some people ask, is this, I don't know that anybody's ever asked this outright, but like, is this just a nostalgia show? Is the impression you get? People might think it's not really. It is legitimately, and it's not even the sound of it. It is literally the form of it, and the fact that you can, the limitations that you get to then play with. You've got lock loops. You've got Python did the 2 tracks, the 2 grooves on the one side of a record. The ways you can play with it.
I so wished we'd done that. It was so good, so good. I mean, but you couldn't copy it.
Right.
I mean, you couldn't. They'd done it. That was it. Yeah. That's the. What was I thinking? The gadgets or the gimmicks could be so rich in the LP form. You're talking about here. You have one behind you. It has a hole in the middle. Okay, you're producing for an album. Your needle is facing the hole. Eventually, it's going to get to a place where it's going to fall through the hole and have to appear on the other side. I can't tell you how in every LP album we did, we faced the problem, 1, of revolution, 2, of the hole in the middle, and the 2 sides. It gave you something that you had to, there is no art without limitation of the form, Raymond Chandler. There's no art without limitation. You have to deal with it that way. If you're going to write a sonnet, it better be a good one. It better fit the right number of lines, syllables, and spaces.
Yeah.
So to me, I was very intentional about the form and continuing the form. And when we got a chance to do the longer form pieces that might have been albums, Joey's House, for example, which we did at as one of the Roxy shows. That would have been that bare bones script, which you can read in Fighting Clowns of Hollywood. You can read the script, but as I say there, we never did the script. The script was where the show would start from.
Yeah,
and it's impossible to preserve even some of the ad libs. Listen to the show, which is available on this other media, which will deliver you, the performance of it. But that's a very good way to. we all I reflect back on the Marx Brothers who played their shows live before an audience before they filmed them.
Yeah.
And one of the places they played was the Lobero Theater in Santa Barbara. And when we played that stage, it was like,
Come
we're
on.
here with the Marx Brothers. You
Oh,
know?
that's amazing.
But that's very much the way that those though we would work material up to get it ready to the next thing. The Martian Space Party is a similar workup of material that didn't become an album, but almost became one.
What was your, okay, so this is a thing that is often assumed that you need heavy training to be an improviser. Did you just step in? Was this just something that came easy? Well, not easy, but came to you? Improvising?
Came easy. No, I think the best training you can get in improvisation is not to pay one of those guys on Hollywood Boulevard, but to volunteer for the Renaissance Fair.
There you go. Right. Okay.
Where you are speaking in a foreign language 8 hours a day, answering random questions and never getting out of character. I'll tell you, that was great training for me from the I was at the very first Renaissance Fair and followed that all during its first years. And it was exhausting.
Yeah.
It was just exhausting. You'd have to go back into the tent and have, a big glass of wine and say, I'm going to go out there and do it again. Yes, madam. Great training in improvisation. Wow. Being up against three other guys, all of whom are talking at the same time, teaches you to be quiet. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that, which is an equally important lesson in improv. The other thing about improv is that all writing is improvisation. Yep. So it's just fixed. And so we improvised around the table as writers and would fix the text. And then we would take the text, this is modern art terms, take the text into the studio, and we would work then it into character. And it didn't matter what we'd argued about writing, so long as the voices, the character, the intention, all this stuff that actors do, but they do it in Hamlet. We were doing these very short forms with the intention of making you believe everything that we were saying.
Yeah, and that is the, I guess, the essential form of acting. Then, as long as you keep it within this realm, it's nebulous, but you keep it within this believable realm, you've done your job. Yeah,
it's the suspension of disbelief. Mm-hmm. And that's what's really funny about the breaking up on that album is that it breaks the fourth wall. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there's something we also love that. Yep. We love when Bob Hope turns to the camera and goes, makes a face. Yeah. It's funny that you can do that. You can break yourself out of what we've put you into, and I think one of the funny things about radio is that we could bring in those kinds of characters and just move from one to another without any pause. Yeah. Our great invention was the channel switch. Mm-hmm. The channel switch kept us from ever having to write the end of anything. Go bid the cannons shoot. No, we never had to write that. Speaking of which, that was, I think, the last album was Anything You Want To, the so-called lost Shakespeare comedy. Yeah. From Rhino. I think that was the last LP, and it was abbreviated because it was an LP. The original was for National Public Radio, and the form of the original was that it was happening on National Public Radio, but in the nation of Hoch Flem. Flem being a country divided into the communist part of Flem on one side of the city and the western part of one, the happy-go-lucky nation where everybody's spending a lot of money gambling.
You guys didn't stop. This is the thing. Not just didn't stop making stuff. You didn't stop trying to find ways to just fuck with the entire format of it, which is the beauty of it to me. It's one of those things. I talked with my best friend about Everything You Know Is Wrong and realized halfway into it, shit, I've actually never heard it. And then we were talking about it, and I thought I had grown up with him trying to play me one, and I didn't get it, and I didn't discover it until my adult years. And he said, no, it was this record, you idiot. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so it is one of those things where once my brain finally latched onto it and realized all the chances you guys were taking, and not just chances, but just like, no, let's not throw everything out, but do a little bit of something new. Maybe let's write the first hacker character in pop culture history. Let's just do that, for instance. It's just crazy that these things you're just like, no, has this been done, or isn't this interesting? And it's great that it turns out it hasn't been done before.
Well, nothing had been done before. And,
Fair enough.
I mean, in that sense.
Yeah.
And I don't think that anybody had previously come up. Where does the old actor retired in his home up in the Hollywood Hills watching his old movies on television come from? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a novel. That's a whole history. And so George Tirebiter became a real character with a real history, because he was worth it, coming out of this Arthur Millerish situation on that album. You know, the love for the characters. Even for the cartoon characters, Danger and the Danger Family, everybody just adored those characters and loved seeing us do them on the stage. And Austin was at his most magnificent at doing Danger on stage, because he had the audience in the palm of his hand at all times. Just brilliant. And so that was another. In terms of improvisation, that was another thing that we learned to do is be completely loose with us on stage.
Yeah.
And if something happens, I remember once Phil lost his contact lens. And he lost it on stage, was looking for it. We didn't know whether he had actually lost his contact lens.
Of course.
Or whether the actor he was playing had lost his contact lens. But needless to say, we wrote it in. It was incredibly funny, because he's doing it was in the Shakespeare piece, and he's doing this thing, and then suddenly, oh shit, he's down on the floor looking for just stuff like that would happen on stage. It would never get to an album. Mm-hmm. But it would stuff in between the lines that you had already recorded that would send it somewhere else.
Yeah. Oh my God. That is so beautiful. Was it a natural thing? Did you all have an idea? Okay, yes, improv to writing is the way to go. Or did you discover that as a process?
Well, we only existed as writers. Mm-hmm. The Firesign Theater didn't exist unless it was writing together.
Yeah, fair.
So that's why I think it's so important to preserve our writing after all of these years, instead of just the sound of us in your ears, is because that is absolutely true. If we were together, we were writing, whether it was in a studio or with a typewriter, or even doing interviews or whatever it was. We were writing, basically. And if we weren't, there were so many things that could capture all of our attention. Mm-hmm. Phil Proctor had an entire film career going on. Yeah. Peter Bergman was in at least 3 places at once, and complicated places at that. Mm-hmm. Medical equipment and it's an Apple master and all that kind of stuff. So it was. We had to let go into our own lives, but we knew that we didn't just come back to sit around. We came back to sit down and write something. Mm-hmm. That was the job. And as I've described it to people who say, how did you do that? It was like, now how television comedy is written by a group of people who sit in a room and they write all the lines together. It was like that, because I think that's the only model. There is no other real model for collective writing other than the TV sitcom, because movies were written by a single writer who then got rewritten by 10 other writers. Working against each other.
That's man. I don't know. I love hearing this from two different perspectives. Also, I love hearing it from two entirely different energies. You and Phil have totally different energies as human beings, and so I get these different perspectives, and I'm hearing different things, and you're both talking about it. I'd like to know, the two of you, is there a specific element of writing, a specific element of acting or comedy or anything, the first thing that made you and Phil Proctor click, since you're the only two I've ever spoken?
Well, I think it was on that first radio program that we did with Phil, with Peter, the first Radio Free Oz show. At the very beginning, we called Phil. He's the guy that falls off the end of the couch. Oh, Phil Proctor, he's the guy who always looks in the back of the couch and finds money.
Yeah.
You know, there was just something innately funny always about Phil, as well as his, his skills and all of that. But there was just something really funny about him. I was the poet. I was the serious guy, and in that way, we have that contrast. But on the other hand, we can sit down and write a piece together. We wrote the beginning of The Giant Rat of Sumatra, because Peter and Phil didn't show up, and we said, let's just start writing. Phil was always so funny. Phil could be on the phone to his agent through an entire writing session. But see, I use the expression writing session because that's what was in my calendar, a writing session. We sat down and we wrote, and there was an end result to that always. Because we didn't write the radio shows together. What we wrote separately. Okay. And yes, you're right about it. Sure, there's a different energy. Phil is a leprechaun. He's a little guy in the sense that he has small person energy, bigger than life energy. He's just naturally funny. I love him as a brother, and have we ever had our difficulties? Sure, we have. My three brothers were very hard to get along with sometime, together and separately. But all of that basically is gone. And we sat down at the Library of Congress to do this little piece that we copped from the four guys writing it and made two guys. It was like, we've been doing this all our lives, which is kind of what we have been.
Yeah. I will just say, describing him as the guy who finds the change in the couch is maybe the perfect description of him, because also he's literally been on my couch here a million times interviewing, and there's a bit every time. He'll do a bit. It doesn't matter. 2 or 3 bits per interview at least, and then I'm entirely just off-roaded. I can't think straight anymore because it's always, a beautiful bit. And I find myself having to get back on track and not knowing how. Usually Taylor is the one who helps, by the way. I'll just point that out. Taylor's a brilliant get you back on track guy.
Oh, couldn't do without Taylor. Right. But think how it is to those two energies. Phil's at 9.
Yeah.
Okay. Now add in Pete's, who was not manic depressive, but surely bipolar. And no, not manic. Yeah, bipolar. Just bipolar. And Austin, who could be as withdrawn as any person could possibly be, just not there.
Yeah.
Or else so there, and so, quote, prepared, so ready to give. There's like, I guess I'll have to come with some stuff again tomorrow, boy. And I can remember that happening, and because you would bring things in, especially at the start of writing something. How do you do that? It came in with the character. Phil Proctor came in with Hiya Friends, the character of the car salesman. If you came in with this, Peter came in with a piece that he'd written that was so funny. We threw out the beginning of the album and put it at the beginning. Wow. All those kinds of things would happen. That's why I say that you never let go of the product until it was finally mixed down at the very end of it, because there was always other things you could do. And that's part of that improv, to not let go of it, but not make it perfect.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hardest thing. Yeah. As the perfection being the enemy of the good, but holy cow, there's also just more packed into your records than any other comedy group that I can think of. As a kid, I was a big fan. The stuff that I grew up listening to at the beginning was like, Cheech and Chong, and I didn't smoke weed. I didn't really understand what weed was. I didn't get half the jokes they were making. I'm like, wow. The one thing that stuck with me is like, this is just so well mixed and so brilliantly. And then you find out later that Lou Adler is probably half the reason that it sounds as good as it does, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then Taylor, I mean, I'm introduced to you guys before Taylor, but then Taylor helps me appreciate that it's not just that there's, it seems as though back here in the back of my head, a character just said something, and now I have to listen to it 10 more times, and you get your money's worth. It's never one album. I don't think there's one album of yours that is one album, based on the amount of listens you have to get through it, to get it, to understand what's actually going on. It's a solid 10 listens per record.
Somebody quoted on Facebook today, because people will just quote lines,
Yeah.
And one of them was, "I've been shooting reds and yellows all day." And I wrote back and I said, that line is so complicated on so many levels. It's virtually the United States foreign policy. I mean, how do you footnote these two Mexicans from Los Angeles who are in Korea, but they're really in Vietnam, really? I mean, it's just that's the kind of richness that made me enjoy what we were doing. That line could come out just abstractly, as it probably did, out of either Austin's or Proctor's mouth. And so you wrote it down. We fixed that. Okay, we'll put that in for sure. All made up, all improv on the moment of time. So that's what the advantage of having the studio time to be able to do that was.
That was going to be my next question, because there are just, every once in a while, there's the air of this just couldn't be improvised. There's too much, somebody cracks a little bit, there's a laugh, there's a little bit of that energy. Okay, so that does make sense, that there could be entire bits where you're just like, no, let's work this out on the tape, which is phenomenal.
Yeah,
I love hearing that. This has been a treasure, a pleasure, all the words that rhyme with that, and an honor to speak with you. I really, really appreciate speaking with you, David.
Well, it's about time, Jason, that we did this. I mean, because Taylor's been trying to get us together for a long while. And it is fun, and this is a great time to talk, and I'm feeling like I know more now than I did the last time I went through this, and that everybody I'm talking to, smart, knows what's going on, knows what they're doing. It's not like the TV morning show or the poor jock at the radio station that, there's the one really enthusiastic guy that set up your show in the student union, but then the guy who's on the air, he likes metal, and, I mean. So thank you very much. I'm here. I'm available. I'm still reasonably alive and healthy.
Well, shoot, my next question here was, what's your favorite Metallica song? Damn it. Okay, I'm going to throw that one out.
I'm terribly sorry about that.
Please tell people about the record, where they can find it, and what's on it. What's it all about?
All right. The record is Dope Humor of the 70s. It is a 2 LP collection of shorter cuts that have been chosen from our 3 radio shows, the Firesign Theater Radio Hour, Let's Eat, and Dear Friends, that we did right at the turn of 1970, right through that era when it was free radio. So these are for you, dear friends. They are fun to play. You not only get 46, 36, 20. You get a lot of cuts on these 2 albums, but then you also get an equal amount of stuff, if not more, on a digital download. Plus, there's a wonderful essay by Taylor Jessen. Plus, there's 4 12-inch LP sides to look at, and they're awfully beautiful. Our old notes. It's just a lot of fun to have a record, and it's out there from stand up exclamation point, records. For the records, it's a limited edition. I think the edition is 500, and there I don't think will be any more. There is a download version, but hey, you want the 12 by 12, don't you? You
Yes,
do.
you do. Come on
So
now.
it's right out there. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for listening, and as always, have a good thing. Comedy on Vinyl is a production of StolenDress Entertainment. It is produced by Mike Warden and is hosted and edited by Jason Klom. Our theme song was composed and performed by Richard Levinson. You can email us at podcast@comedyonvinyl.com. You can also send snail mail to StolenDress Entertainment, P.O. Box 805, Burbank, California, 91503. Subscribe to Comedy on Vinyl on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and anywhere else you can find podcasts. Give us a 5-star rating and write us a review. It helps. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Comedy on Vinyl, or find everything in one place at comedyonvinyl.com. A major portion of Comedy on Vinyl has been underwritten by Stand Up Records. Please visit standuprecords.com for all your comedy needs and tune in to the new Stand Up Records channel available on the Roku, where you can also find select episodes of this podcast. Visit StolenDress.com to listen to our other podcasts, watch videos, and imbibe freely of our multimedia content going back 15 plus years. StolenDress Entertainment.
Hey, it's my turn.